They laughed at me long before they knew my name, long before they had any idea who I really was. To them, I was just another nobody trying to survive, another face in the crowd they could step over without thinking twice. And the crazy part is, I let them. Not because I was weak, but because I needed to see who people truly were when they thought nothing was at stake. Yeah, that happened. And this story isn't about revenge in the way people expect. It's about what happens when patience meets truth and when the people who mocked you realize they were wrong all along. Let me take you back to how it started. A few years ago, I moved into a neighborhood people didn't exactly brag about. Small shops, dusty roads, everyone knowing everyone's business. I kept my head down, rented a tiny workspace, and started working. No flashy clothes, no expensive car, just simple jeans, worn shoes, and long days. People assumed things quickly. They always do. They decided I was broke, struggling, desperate. And once people decide that about you, they treat you accordingly. The worst of it came from the same group over and over. The loud ones. The ones who always seemed to have an opinion. They laughed when I walked past, made comments just loud enough for me to hear. Another dreamer wasting time. These ones think hustle is enough. One guy even said, "Give him 6 months, he'll disappear." They thought it was funny. I smiled, nodded, kept walking. Inside, though, I was watching everything. The only person who didn't look at me like that was a woman named Lena. She worked nearby, helped her family run a small food place. She had this way of treating people like they mattered even when no one else did. The first time we talked, it wasn't dramatic. Just normal. She offered me food when she saw I was working late. No pity, no judgment, just kindness. You know what I mean? The real kind. We started talking more. Small conversations, nothing serious at first. But the more time passed, the more obvious it became how differently the world treated us. People would pull her aside, whisper things, warn her about me. I could see it in their faces. They'd look at me then, at her shaking their heads like she was making some terrible mistake. One day, I overheard it directly. A guy from the neighborhood laughed and said, "You're really serious about him." "That broke dude," another woman added. "She could do so much better." Lena didn't argue loudly. She didn't need to. She just said, "You don't know him." That was it. Simple. Strong. Still, the pressure kept building. The jokes turned sharper. The comments more personal. One afternoon, a group of them cornered me pretending it was all friendly. "So, what's the plan, man?" one asked, smirking. "Gonna be rich one day," another laughed. "Love doesn't pay rent, you know." I looked at them and said calmly, "You're right. It doesn't." That confused them. They expected anger. They got peace instead. What they didn't know was that every night after I locked that small workspace, I went somewhere else. A place they'd never imagine. Meetings, designs, calls, contracts. I wasn't pretending to be poor. I was choosing to live quietly. There's a difference. And Lena never once asked me for proof, never pushed for answers. She believed in what she could see. My work ethic, my discipline, my respect for people. That belief mattered more than anything. Then came the breaking point. The day everything almost fell apart. It was crowded, noisy, everyone around. One of the loudest guys decided to put on a show. He shouted across the street, "Hey, Lena, when are you going to stop playing charity?" People laughed. Someone else added, "She likes suffering." It was humiliating. I saw Lena freeze. Her smile faded. And for the first time I felt something shift inside me. Later that night she finally broke down. She asked me the question I'd been dreading and preparing for at the same time. "How long do we have to live like this?" Not accusing, just tired. I held her hands and said, "Not much longer." She looked at me confused. I added, "Tomorrow things change." She didn't know what I meant. No one did. The next morning, the neighborhood woke up to something unexpected. Black vehicles pulling up. People stopping mid-conversation. Security stepping out. Phones coming out. Whispers spreading like wildfire. I stepped out last, dressed the way I usually did when I wasn't hiding. Clean lines. Confidence. No noise. Just presence. The same people who laughed at me went silent. The guy who called me broke stared like he'd seen a ghost. Someone whispered my name, reading it off a badge they recognized from somewhere else. Reality hit them all at once. The business I owned, the projects I led, the success they never imagined. It wasn't magic. It was years of work they never bothered to look for. I walked straight to Lena. The crowd followed quiet now. I looked at her and said, "I didn't lie to you. I just hadn't told you everything." Her eyes filled with tears, not of shock, but of understanding. She nodded. That was enough. Then I turned to the crowd. I didn't insult anyone. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "You judged me when you thought it was safe to do so." Silence. "And you judged her for loving me." More silence. That hurt them more than shouting ever could. The people who mocked us couldn't meet our eyes. Some tried to apologize later. Some disappeared. Life has a way of sorting things out like that. Here's the part people always ask about. Did it feel good? Yeah, it did. Not because they were embarrassed, but because the truth finally spoke for itself. Because Lena never wavered. Because patience won. We didn't move away immediately. We stayed for a while. Let people sit with what they'd done. Let them question their own assumptions. And eventually we left on our own terms, not running, not hiding. So here's my question for you. If you were in their place, would you have judged me too? If you were in hers, would you have stayed, or would you have listened to the noise? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you stand, because stories like this happen every day, and the line between right and wrong isn't always where people think it is.